And we are live with our 60th installment of Nansen Office Hours. GM, and thank you for joining us today. Drop your GMs in the chat, please. I already see a few. My name is Alex. I'm the co-founder actually. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO at Nansen. Some people call me the token god. If you're new to Office Hours, every Wednesday we do a Nansen and chill session where we look at Nansen's new features. We're going to look at a lot of new features today. We answer questions from you, so please drop them in the chat. And we sometimes come across the occasional alpha leak. Today we have two special guests with me here. So, Paul, you've already been here before, but maybe we can start with you to give a quick intro for those of you who don't know you.
Yeah, so I'm the product manager for NFTs. I also do a lot of research into blockchain networks, and I'm probably more like the paper hand god because I've probably held every NFT project there is and sold it way too early or at a loss. I think I sold Bored Apes at a loss, one of them as well, somehow.
Paper hand Paul.
Yep. So probably stronger on the analysis than investment advice.
Yeah, it's good to have you back on the stream. And then we have Onur, who's joining us for the first time. Welcome, Onur.
Yeah. Hello, GM everyone. My name is Onur. I am a research engineer here at Nansen in the attribution team. So my main work is essentially labeling the wallets. So when you see all those, DEX trader and like smart money, all these kind of labels, I am the one with all the people in the attribution team labeling those.
That's great. So this is going to be a real behind the scenes kind of session today, I think, which will be fun. And so would definitely, recommend you guys to drop any questions you have for the guys here now that we have them here on the stream with us, so they can answer. Maybe not share all the secret sauce, but it's a good opportunity to ask some questions about what's happening with attribution and NFTs and various other things. But we thought we might start by having Paul show us some of the new NFT features, as well as some NFT features that are on the horizon. So do you want to just share your screen here? Let's see. Boom, I think I've got you added there.
You got it?
Stream. Yep.
Yeah, right. So I think you've covered some of the wash filters and marketplace filters in previous office hours, but I'll just quickly go over it. We've been developing quite a lot and we're doing lots of releases now, so it's all kind of all coming at once. So first we had LooksRare launch. We did a LooksRare dashboard as well, so you can keep on top of not only how popular it is against OpenSea, but also if you have staking rewards and stuff, you can see the health of the LooksRare token and the liquidity pair, which is really interesting. It really dropped off there, so I'm not sure. Maybe that's not the best signal if you hold lots of looks, because it means you might not be able to trade them quite as easily in that liquidity pair. When we put LooksRare data into the dash, oh yeah, go for it.
That's pretty insane. I had not noticed that chart. That's an insane chart.
Are you reaching for your MetaMask now?
I'm not.
Are you going to go?
But that's a pretty wild chart. I had actually not noticed that before. And this, by the way, this dashboard is publicly available, right? So people can actually see this even if they don't have a Nansen account.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd imagine the price went down there as well. So what was that, the 15th of February? Yeah, let's have a look at the price on CoinGecko quickly. We do it in our dashboard too, actually, so I should probably be doing that. But let me quickly grab it. So what was that? We saw it just starting to drop on the 15th onwards. And yeah, I guess it had bottomed out a bit, but there was a bit of a drop there as well in terms of ETH.
It might have been the halvening
That's what I was
yeah,
thinking
of
too.
course. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of negative rewards now as well. Like, so we calculate people that are making a profit here. We just convert it like to what ETH's worth today if they cast it all in. So it's not like the actual running total. But this has been green for a long time, and now it's not so many people able to make an immediate profit by incentive trading. But I think we've kind of covered this already, LooksRare, and it's still there for anyone to see. We show the volume. So we did that, and then like we had like, as you know, we had like 1 million tasks to do as the NFT squad this quarter, but this disrupted it all because as soon as we ingested the data for LooksRare, everything went a bit crazy for a week or so. Let me take this wash filter off. And it all looked a bit like this. Like we had projects you don't normally see at the top with unbelievable volume day in, day out. It was bigger than this as well, but it is still high. And when you clicked into them, you saw some really cool views, but they weren't really representative of like the real prices. So without the wash filter, Meebits looks like this, and you see all these massive clusters of buys by the same people, like Meebits being traded for 6,000 ETH over and over again, which is a great looking graph. But if you want to know like just what the floor is, it's quite hard. So we had to then build a wash trading filter, so you can now see exactly what the real kind of market for Meebits is. And in doing that, we also revealed something really interesting, which is going back to NFT Paradise. You can now look at LooksRare, and put on the wash trading filter, and you see what the real volume is for LooksRare without the wash trading filter. So this is an optional filter for like people that just want the raw data. You can turn it off and see exactly what the blockchain's telling you. But we have this heuristic, which is applied quite strongly. So you can see, maybe more as an investor, you can get a stronger signal. So that's like disrupted our workflow massively this quarter, but I was really glad we did it because it also pushed us ahead, and it allows us to do a few new things. And one of the big things here that I'm super excited about is the NFT indexes, which we are launching kind of right now. Like in a couple of hours, it'll be live, and we'll have some research articles on it. So I'll show you that behind the scenes in our dev dashboard, and this is what it looks like. And you access it from the NFT menu down to NFT indexes. And the reason I'm super excited about this is I just don't think anyone else has done anything close to it yet. Louisa is an amazing analyst who has started with us in the NFT squad just towards the end of last year, and she's been hammering away at this task like long nights, like months on end now. And the main meat of the task is categorizing NFTs into different types, which is a nightmare job because they all do different things. So it's really trying to find out what's the principal aim of this NFT, what are they trying to be, what does the community see them as. And then we labeled them all because Nansen does labels really well, so it seemed like a really natural fit. So we not only have like what type of category it is, so social, metaverse, game, or art, but you can dig deeper into that and see a subcategory. So for example, let's go to gaming, you can see play to earn, role-playing game, GameFi are all in there. So I think this is just brilliant because although it seems quite simple, no one in the market seems to have really nailed this yet. And when you look at it, you suddenly get, well, as like a new person to NFTs, you can see what the market looks like, find out a few NFTs that are interesting. And as someone who's more of a power user, you can compare how they move against each other, spot new trends. So there was a big kind of idea that this year would be all about gaming. So far, we can see that hasn't actually happened. And that social, which includes PFPs, are still quite popular. On top of that, we've revamped our blue chip index. It's now like really exclusive. So for anyone that doesn't know, the blue chip index was a basket of the 20 most well-performing NFTs with the highest liquidity. The liquidity is really important, and that just means you can sell it easily. There's a constant market, and all of these indexes, that's one thing we've baked into all of our methodology, which is quite in depth. but we've basically said like everything, if you're going to make it in our index, it needs to be liquid. It needs to allow investors to enter and exit a position. So it doesn't mean it's a bad NFT if it doesn't have lots of sales, but it wouldn't make it into our indexes. We categorize every single project with over 1,000 ETH volume, and we do that daily. And we reckon that our 500 index here, by doing that, covers 85% of the market on Ethereum for ERC-71s, ERC-1155s. I've only just started playing with this, so like there's loads of alpha kind of in here, which I'm just discovering as I do it. There's a few tweaks because this is the development version. And it also kind of doubles up as a trends dashboard. So like one thing I can do is if I go to the social index, or okay, let's try something different like the meta index. So this is metaverse NFTs. I can home in certain types. So for example, I'll start with the trending. So first of all, you can see what's trending really easily within this index. You can look at the floor price and just sort by it and see these three projects here seem to have really good daily returns. And you can take a longer term outlook and sort by the 30-day change to see what might be making a bigger impact in the long run. You could also, if you've got the filters here, you can like dig deeper into it. And I could type in the category there that I want to just filter down by. So I really like the land category. I think that's going to be a big one. So let's have a look at filtering that. And then we can just have a look at these top metaverse indexes for land and real estate. I think Webland, yep, that's one of the ones I've been tracking closely. My paper hands sold it almost immediately at a very slow game, but now it's worth loads. And Webland's like this interactive world you can go into with your NFT. So you can take your wizard, or you could take your crypto toad, and you could jump into this metaverse where you can roam around and see other NFTs, play games, and own parts of the land there. So you can own like penthouses and stuff. So it's quite exciting that they've actually got that application of NFTs that I think everyone really wants to see, but takes a while to build. So like coming back to like the big overview, one thing you can do here then is kind of say, well, like gaming and metaverse seems very hyped up this year. Like there's a lot of interest in it, but we haven't actually seen any big projects succeed or lots of new ones flood the market. And the reason we think might be because it takes a while to build something really good. Like you could turn it around in a week, but if you want a really good game, it might take a while. So this is a really good way of also tracking just how that game index is doing overall. You're gonna have to stop me, Alex, because I will just like keep going on and on about it. But is there anything that jumps out to you? Because you're probably quite new eyes to this, whereas I've been staring at it like every day for a few weeks.
This is pretty new, I guess, to both Onur and myself. I think it does a good job of surfacing the signal, which is, of course, the mission of our company. It would be nice to talk a little about like use cases for this. I mean, I think you mentioned a few, for example, figuring out which sectors are trending and how they're performing overall. But what do you see in terms of use cases for this, like for people who are watching and might want to start using this?
Yeah, well, I think, like I said, if you're new to NFTs, it's an incredibly hard space to get into. Like, you have to not only like master security in a Web3 environment, but then you have to navigate which projects you might want to buy. And for a lot of people, that just means replying to spam messages on Discord, or picking something out of a hat, or going off the front page of OpenSea, which historically hasn't been the best bet. So this gives you a really good starting point. You say, look, well, I'm interested in profile pictures. And you also like have that visibility as a new user. Like when I first started buying NFTs, I had no idea what I was buying into as a market was going up or down. So this lets you see that the segment you're interested in, the health of it. So I'd say social NFTs look pretty good this year. In fact, everything. Like when we did, as you saw, we did a bit of a correlation analysis as well, and we found out that they're really uncorrelated to other assets as well. But we can come back to that. As the new user, I think it just gives you a really good starting point. And then I can click on the social ones, and because we have that liquidity baked into the methodology, something has to have been around at least 30 days. It has to be trading every single day. We can't guarantee that you'll be able to sell it, but you won't fall for the mistake that a lot of people do, where they buy a project that maybe isn't popular, was popular yesterday, isn't today, or they spend a lot of ETH or dollars on something that they can't actually sell. So for a new user, it can almost serve as like a list of projects to look at further and do a bit of further diligence on, and say, well, look, these are the ones that are actually established. They have a reputation and they might stick around. So in our original blue chip index that hasn't been updated for a long time now because we've been working on this. So this is over 100 days old. These projects, a lot of them are really good performers. I think I had someone recently say to me, like, how did you come up with this list? Because like, World of Women has just been brilliant and it seems to have been on the blue chip for so long. And it's a really simple metric for just addressing, has there been lots of sales? Has it been around a long time? Has it got a good price? Which should be easy to do, but in the blockchain and crypto and the NFT market, that data just isn't readily available with the quality you need to make further decisions on and discovery on. So that's the first part of it for the new user.
Yeah, let me just interject with a few questions from the chat that we got here. Sure. So people are asking, for example, can an NFT be in two categories? For example, Meebits and gaming and social?
No, so we have principal categories for it, which I was poking around with earlier. So an NFT can only be in one of them. We are finding this out a little as we go, but we have tested it a lot. And that's where the depth of our research really came in. Like the work Louise has done hasn't just been like making up a name for it. It's been getting into the Discord, getting into the community, messaging people, finding out what the descriptions are, where they're available, and really homing in on what every single project in this index is about. That's 500 projects. So there's going to be ones that might not seem right, but every time, like there are going to be ones that need improving. But every time I've messaged Louisa saying, hey, why is this here? She's always come back with this brilliant insight into the project that I just didn't realize. So I'm quite confident in them, and you can't be in more than one. And some NFTs naturally blur the lines, and they'll try and be in them all at once, or they'll suddenly pivot to metaverse because it's popular. But when you dig under the surface, there are usually like one main narrative in a project, or if there isn't a main narrative, then there is a way of categorizing them. So the other heavy kind of lifting here was going over every piece of research we could find, every other product that did something similar, and saying, why don't their categories work? And like these 4 categories sound really simple that we've gone for. So as our main categories, social, metaverse, game, and art. But I'm really happy with them. Like it seems simple, but just coming up with that was quite a feat. And I think they're all quite distinct categories. And then we can look further into it and say, well, what's the subcategory here? So a good one I was looking at earlier is cybercongs, and where they come. So for example, they are in, I'm pretty sure they're in the NFT 500 as GameFi, but they also have avatars that they've released. So cybercongs seem to be pivoting to metaverse, but they started as a social project. So I think they're in the social index. We are still playing with how this displays a bit. So,
by the way, there's another question in the chat, which is there a way to purchase shares of NFT 500 or NSN Blue Chip?
Good question. It just seems like a natural step, right? I think like
can't leak too much alpha.
Well, if there was a buy now button, I would be pressing it, put it that way. I think I'd love exposure to the indexes without having to buy a CryptoPunk that would cost way out of my range, but I'd love to buy a tiny bit of everything. So
Yeah.
it's obviously
So on
modeled
that
on an
note,
investable index. So maybe it's not such a big
yeah,
thing.
I think on that note, it's kind of interesting to reflect on how the NFT market is a very retail first market, where it's not really possible for very, very large institutions to invest in it, because like, are they going to go and handpick Bored Apes, or like, that's a pretty difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
But if you had an index like this where they could just deploy, $100 million across like the NFT 500 index, and then somehow there's something on the back end that basically deploys that capital in a proportional manner across the different NFT collections, that would be pretty exciting. Like, it would sort of allow the NFT market to reach a new source of capital that it can't really cater to today. And also, I guess these indexes are kind of like REITs in the real world, right? Like, where you have real estate investment trusts, where you can sort of, instead of buying individual apartments or commercial property, you just kind of buy into a REIT, like an index. And properties are a bit like NFTs, right? Like, if you had properties represented on a blockchain, they would be pretty much NFTs.
Yeah, totally. And all the money Lego that crypto gives you is there to do this with. So there's loads of different ways of doing it. You could rebalance it through a liquidity pool with an ERC20 token, or you could bring them all together in a vault and lock them up like a REIT. So and charge fees on top of this. All kinds of things you can do that is quite exciting with it, because it's part of that crypto infrastructure which does all these things way better than non-crypto worlds, where I'd be like probably still faxing people to do some of this.
Yeah. So I see on the left side, on the sidebar, that the NFT Indexes has a little new icon. There's another row, Price Estimator, which has a little new icon here as well. So maybe this is a good time to segue into Onur's overview of the NFT Price Estimator. So should we like switch screens, or what do you think is most convenient here?
Sure, we can do that.
Let's see if we can manage to get Onur's screen up here. I'll try to remove yours, Paul. And then I see if you have to like approve something in the browser. It's pretty cool because the index is kind of like the macro, and then Price Estimator is like as micro as you can go, because we're gonna be looking at individual NFT items in the collection. So it's pretty cool that you can sort of slide. It's like Google Maps, right? You can sort of start, or Google Earth, zoomed out all the way, like the bird's eye view, and then you can like zoom in to the very, very micro. So maybe, Onur, do you want to kind of give a quick background on like what the Price Estimator is, and then maybe we can see some examples. And by the way, yeah, actually, I'll let you intro, and then we can see if there's some activity in the chat afterwards.
Sure. So Price Estimator, I think it started first as a hackathon project. So when I first joined, I had this problem myself, that I have a bunch of NFTs and they're kind of illiquid, and I want to sell them, but I don't want to sell them under their fair price, right? And I don't have time to go and look at each and every trade and go spend time in their Discord channel to understand, what is valuable, because sometimes a trade might not be that rare, but it might still be valuable. So it takes a lot of time to really understand the collection and really get a sense of what is a fair price. But also, on the other hand, I wanted to buy some NFTs, but I don't want to spend more money than the fair price. And if possible, I want to get the ones that are undervalued. And so you can really do it if you spend time and learn the collection. But all the data is there. It's available for a machine as well. We are not really ingesting external data here, when like as human beings, when we're learning about the collections, right? We just look at trades, look at the sales. So I thought, maybe we can do it with machine learning. And we kind of created a proof of concept in the hackathon. And we kind of saw that it really works. And now we have the data ready to build it in scale. We started with a few projects and deployed it in production. So the projects we currently have are Azuki, Mutotapes, Doodles, Bored Apes, and Forgotten Runes. I guess Lars is going to be happy that we have the results, finally. So maybe I can just dive into one of the collections and show how it looks like. So let me just put a random number here.
By the way, just jump in. If people own any of these collections and they're happy to kind of like, this, if you share someone your NFT, you're also doxing your wallet. Hopefully people know that. But if anyone in the chat wants us to look at a specific Azuki or Mutant Ape or Bored Ape or Doodle or Wizard, then you can drop the ID and maybe we can plug them into the price estimator and see what they look like. But back to you, Onur.
That would be great. So I just opened a random one, NFT ID one. Hopefully the owner is not going to be very angry. So for this one, so let me start from the top. So first of all, we see the estimated price. So the machine learning model estimates like 13.5 ETH for this particular NFT. And it is 18% higher than the current floor. And here you can see the links to OpenSea and LooksRare if you want to buy it. And here we have the impactful trades. So impactful trades are it kind of shows like how the machine learning model came up with this estimation, like what were the most impactful trades that contributed to this price estimate. So here, the most impactful one seems like Alphan being gloves, followed by hair being pink hairband and clothing. So since this is not very impactful, like very premium one, we can see that the impactful trades are kind of evenly distributed. But if we have a look at like one of the ones that have a very premium trade, then we would see that this impactful trades would get dominated by that very premium trade. And in the bottom, we see the price history. So in the purple line, we see the estimated price for this NFT historically. So it started, I think, at 18 of Feb. So it kind of fluctuated like between, here it jumps to 19, but overall it kind of fluctuated between like 15 and 13, I would say. Here there's a jump, maybe like this often gloves or like one of the trades maybe get bought at that time, and we see a jump. But yeah, I would say this is like around like 13, 14, 15 price range. And in the line at the bottom, we see the floor price. So this is the floor price of the collection. And we can see that they kind of move together, like there is a very big correlation. So as the floor of the collection increases, we see that the price estimator tends to make a higher prediction for this one, but it still keeps the premium. So you can think of this machine learning model as like, it takes into the floor into account, but it also takes the trades into account, and trades act as a multiplier to the floor price, and it finds out which trades are important and particularly which values are premium. So that's how I would summarize this this model.
That's really cool.
And finally,
sorry, no, go ahead.
I was just going to talk about this distribution of all estimates. So here in the bar chart on the bottom, we see the distribution for the whole collection. So we see that like most of the pieces, like almost 6,000, more than 6,000 pieces are in the floor. And we see that the rare ones, like obviously the most expensive are a little bit more rare. And the most expensive predictions we have are in the 150 range. So this kind of shows you where your NFT falls under. So for instance, for this one, 13.5 is like around here. So just a little bit higher than the floor, but still like most of the pieces are located in this range.
It's pretty cool how you see some clusters, or almost like it's like a multimodal distribution, right? Like around 110 or something, there's a little cluster, right?
Yeah.
And then you see, like, of course, at the floor is where you typically have the highest, that's where the peak is, right? And then there seems to be a little bit of a peak around 30 ETH as well. So it's kind of curious that you almost have these like natural tiers of Azukis.
Yeah, I presume we have a particular trade that has this price estimate. That's why we have a peak here. And similarly, we probably have another trade that is located here. That's why we see another peak.
Yeah. Can we plug in my Azuki and we can see how much I overpaid for it?
Yeah, sure. What's the ID?
So 8140.
How much did you overpay for it? I mean,
Let's
how much did
see.
you pay for it? So
How much did you pay?
Yeah, let's see. I guess we can see it in Nansen actually how much I paid for it afterwards.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's
I think I actually paid around 13 ETH for it. Yeah. So maybe not too
so
bad.
you're almost at break-even. I guess you were doing fine when the floor was higher, but now it decreased a little bit. And yeah, for this one, it is 14% higher than the floor. And the most impactful trade is the hair being silver pixie.
That's funny because the hair is actually that's the main thing that I was, when I was looking at, I wanted to buy something around near the floor, and I was like, well, the silver pixie, that sounds pretty cool. It's like that's the main trait that I thought, okay, that's how you refer to it. Just like I would refer to a pudgy penguin as like a blue kimono pengu, or it could be a Viking pengu as well, I guess, in my case. But the silver pixie is like how I would refer to it. And that's actually what the model says is the most impactful trait.
Yeah, exactly.
You can actually click on silver. Sorry, you can click on silver pixie as well. Did you know to look further at it?
Oh yeah, this is like a real feature alpha leak, because I don't think people know about this feature. It's pretty hidden. I mean, it's a rarity profiler, so you can see it on the left. But I use this a lot. It's like really cool. If you just hover over the images, I guess.
You could filter by the number as well, and you might find out Alex's wallet, so we can verify his.
If you sorted by last sold.
Here.
If you there you go. There I am. Yeah, there I am. So now do you want to click through on the 8140?
It says there last price 13.
Okay, 13. Okay. So I'm agreeing pretty much with the model. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty cool. So I think the rarity profiler, I guess, is what we call it, right? Where you can kind of drill down on the specific features and check out. Like, this is kind of the silver pixie family, and then you can see all of them, right? And compare them to each other.
Oh no, I have a question here. So, like, rarity-wise, silver pixie is probably, we've got a graph that shows it somewhere, but it's a really, I imagine it's a rarer trait. But does your model look at anything in addition to just like the actual rarity statistics to like find people's actual preferences and link it to what looks cool?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it actually looks at the trades and associated sales, like all the sales history. So it would capture if there is a trade that is not that rare, but it is valued by the community. Like I think a good example would be hoodie for CryptoPunks. Like hoodie is not that rare, and they're like the rare ones, but hoodie is highly valued. And this is a perfect example for the model. It would definitely capture that particular trade is highly valued, even if the rarity score is not that high. And there are a couple of reasons for that. So first of all, not each trade is equally important, right? So for instance, here we don't see it, but like background is probably not that important, even if we have maybe a rare background, or maybe some backgrounds are rarer than the others, but it doesn't really matter much. Maybe it matters for Azuki, I don't know, but like usually for profile picture NFTs, background doesn't really matter. And it will take that into account when it's making a prediction. So rarity is always important, but it would capture the fact that some trades are valuable even if they're not very rare. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I've got another tab open now where I'm checking a floor for Azuki to see if I can find anything that might be mispriced.
There's a question here in the chat. Did you compare the trades predicted by the model and the actual rarity decided in a collection for each trade?
No, we haven't really compared rarity with the prediction. I think that would be interesting for sure. And I presume we would see a very high correlation, even if we don't use the rarity itself for the prediction. So I think it also would be a good kind of test for us to see if the model is really performing, because we don't really use rarity, but if the model can pick up the rarity without even seeing the rarity, it would be pretty interesting.
By the way, since I have both of you guys here, have you discussed actually like feeding the price estimates all the way up to the index? I mean, because that would be pretty insane, right? Like if you could have like an individual price estimate for each single NFT aggregated up to across like 500 collections, that would be pretty wild. Although at the same time, it could just be like if the average, it sort of works out to the same mathematically. But I imagine once in a while you might have some trades that change their kind of price versus the rest, and that should be reflected in the index somehow.
Yeah, so this is like core infrastructure, I think, for anyone building anything to do with NFTs, because you'd never get that. Like, I don't know, if you scroll down to the bottom, the bit I find most exciting here, which I think is easy to miss, is you don't ever get this, which is looking at the whole order book, every NFT priced for what it should be perfectly at this time, according to the model. So you can find out a much better estimation of market cap here. We ran the model for a market cap for Bored Ape, and we looked at, I think it was all our old methodologies. I haven't done it for the new one, but for the indexes, and they were extremely close, which was kind of nice to see as well. But yeah, I think once we plug this data more in all over the dashboards, it just makes a lot more sense, because people throw out market caps all the time for CryptoPunks and Bored Apes, or they look at the floor price, but no one really values them based on the rarest or what people are willing to pay, which is even more important, of the rarest traits. So, for example, Bored Ape seems to be more popular and expensive by looking at the floor price, which is how a lot of people do market cap. But if you look at the recent alien sale and just how much that is, you've got to reconsider if maybe CryptoPunks is still worth more as a collection. So yeah, loads we can do. I'll be in the shower having these thoughts, and I'll have to jump out and like note it down on my phone, and or I'll wake up in the night and I'll be like, we could plug it in anywhere. So, yeah, I can't wait to see where this goes.
I think definitely important. Estimating, like I think people are really interested in estimating the portfolio value, and sometimes you don't have the floor one, and it's hard to estimate what's going to be the value of the NFT you have, especially if you have several of them. And maybe one other interesting concept is that I see that DeFi and NFT are kind of like NFTs are kind of getting into DeFi. Like there is NFT lending protocols are popping up, and for those you need a reliable price estimate. Otherwise, you have to value everything on the floor, and which kind of diminishes the power of, diminishes the impact of buying a premium NFT, because you're going to be able to get a loan based on the floor price, which is not really efficient.
Absolutely. I think if you have a good price estimator and also a good liquidity estimator, then you're pretty much set, right? In the sense that you can think about how you would liquidate NFTs, for example, as collateral, which is at the end of the day what you might have to do as a lending platform, right?
Yeah.
There's a yeah. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, the bit I get excited there is like we're hinting at much bigger things, which is like the future of finance and just what crypto can do that you couldn't do before. So this all comes from a blockchain, and it's plugged straight into it, which is like a completely novel way. But it also allows us with things like the NFT index, which is like a financial product potentially. It allows you to start underwriting things. So different types of insurance for different types of NFTs. It's like a really good focal point for that kind of thing. So I think it just unlocks a few doors in the quality of the products that crypto can start offering.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. There's a question here from Wiki who's asking, could we try this on a collection where the project is not providing rarity ranks, so the community can't use rarity ranks? I don't know if
sure.
it's like, I guess like rarity ranks. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, you can sort of calculate just the number of items per trait, but maybe this is referring to like projects where you don't even have the attributes coded out. Like you have to sort of look at the images manually. I'm not sure because that if you have an encoding of the attributes, you can still always work out the frequency, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like if you know the traits, you know the rarity, even if it's not provided by the collection. If there are no traits, that's an interesting concept. I guess it comes down to if the market has a way of differentiating the NFTs by looking at something, that something could be captured by a machine learning model. That's like very theoretically how I see it. If you're going to do it if you're going to do it picture based, that can be done. Like I don't want to go into so much technical details, but that can be done with like convolutional neural networks by using deep learning. Currently, our model is looking at the traits. It's not picture based, but we can expand it into capturing that front as well.
Cool. And have you, just a question from me here, have you considered using like provenance in the model? I mean, maybe this is for later version, but effectively, does it matter who previously owned the NFT? So, I mean, at the extreme, it's easy to imagine that it matters. Like if Snoop Dogg owned a specific Bored Ape, the value of that NFT probably goes up by a lot. But what about this in like a micro scale? Like if Pranksy owned something or if someone else owned some other NFT, do you think that might have an impact? Is it worth like experimenting with that?
Yeah, that's interesting. Currently, we don't look at for particular NFT, like if it's owned by someone famous, maybe that trait goes up or maybe that particular NFT goes up. But I think it would reflect on the collection overall. Because so imagine like Snoop Dogg owns like I don't know, Azuki. I would presume Azuki floor gets swept. Overall, the collection would increase in price, and which would be captured by the model. Maybe with some sort of a delay because first Snoop Dogg apes into Azuki, then people ape into Azuki, then it gets reflected on the price and it gets reflected on the machine learning model.
Yeah, but maybe and maybe it also reflects in the traits already, right? Like if Snoop Dogg buys a silver pixie Azuki, then maybe silver pixies are not really cool, right? And then everyone wants to buy a silver pixie.
Yeah, in that case, yeah, it would definitely get reflected. I was just thinking of a scenario where, like, Snoop Dogg buys silver pixie, and imagine like it's very rare and no one buys it after Snoop Dogg because it's very very expensive. In that case, it might be difficult for model to capture the fact that it's like highly valued. But whenever there is a sale that model can learn from, it will capture it.
Makes sense. So the example that Wiki gave, by the way, was Angry Ape Army Evolution Collection. I'm not sure you guys know that one, but it has no rarity ranks. But Wiki has been looking for a hologram trait. So maybe that means that there's kind of some visual thing in the images which the community has decided to call a hologram or something. I don't know. But okay, let me move on to another question here. Do you plan to have a model for collection that hasn't been minted yet, but maybe based on social media interaction?
That's interesting. I guess, well, based on social media interaction, can we really differentiate one NFT from the other based on price? Like, do we have? So I would first ask, as a human being, can I do it? Like, can I estimate the price of an NFT roughly by just looking at the social media comments and what people think in the Discord? If it's not possible, then I would say it's going to be almost not possible for the model to. But if I can do it by looking at that data, a machine learning model should be able to do it. And that comes a question that, is it really worth it? Because it's going to be minted pretty soon and we will have more reliable price estimate. That depends on, how we're going to use it. I'm not sure if that answers, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, no, I think it makes perfect sense. You might not want to estimate the price, but you might want to use other social metrics to indicate that there's interest or like that it's hot or something like that, right?
I think
so because the price is pretty hard to know upfront.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's this concept of estimating the fair price today versus estimating the price in the future, or like predicting if this is gonna go up. I think they're totally different things, and I think social media interaction becomes really big when it comes to predicting if this thing is gonna go up or not. But I don't think that plays a very important role for estimating the fair price of individual NFTs today.
Yeah, it looks like Ari, who asked the question, came to the same conclusion in the chat as you. Basically, not predicting price, but more like the probability that it will actually go up in price. And then SB made a comment about provenance as well, and says that in traditional art, provenance plays a huge difference. For example, the Liz Taylor print by Andy Warhol, which was actually owned by Liz Taylor, is worth 10 times more than, I guess, the other Liz Taylor prints, maybe. So that's a good example. Then Wiki is saying, oh, I see the price estimator in my Nansen, but has to be expanded. All good, guys. I'll play around with what's included so far. Thanks. Okay, so it's probably because it's a VIP and alpha feature, at least for now, right?
Yeah. It's early access for VIP and alpha at the moment.
Yeah. So that's so that we can get a sense of how people use it and then iron out any bugs and so on, but hopefully it should be available to more users soon.
And by the way, maybe we're a little bit late to highlight that, but this product is not a trading advice. Please just use it for your own interest and for fun, to estimate. But you might be interested in buying, but don't use it for trading. Just use your common sense. Just use it as a guide.
Yeah, that's an important disclaimer that we very often forget in this stream, but then we remember right before we end, like you did now. Do you think there are any other things we should be showing people in terms of new features, or maybe we can just do a quick scan of like the main dashboards? I'd be interested to see, Onur, maybe you could show how you would use Nansen day to day. If you go back to like the homepage, what are some of the things you would look at?
I think one of the things that I look at in these days is this hot contracts and smart money depositors. So I've been seeing Tubby cats for the past 2 days. I think this is becoming really popular. The floor was like 0.7 yesterday when I looked. And I also use the Evolve profiler quite often in these days. So there are a couple of projects that I was looking into. One of them was XMON. I don't know if you guys know about it. So it's gonna be a new, as far as I know, there's gonna be a new NFT marketplace. And let me just copy the contract address. So I first go to token god mode, put the contract address here and look at the the holders and what's going on in the collection for the token overall. So if you go to notable wallets, I'll just let it load. So I was looking into this, for instance, this token, and I look at how the holder is changing. Are people selling or buying, and who is buying and who is selling? And especially I'm looking if I'm going to be able to see smart money buying it. So if we look at the balances, so we can see a couple of smart money people here, increasing their balances in the past couple of days, like in the past 7 days, NFT max about like 2.28 XMON more. And sometimes I discover these interesting wallets here because I'm interested in this particular project. I see that these guys were also interested in that particular project. And I go to the wallet profiler for token to see, how did when they first bought the project, like how frequently they buy it. And then I probably go to wallet profiler as well for the same person to see what interesting things this guy is doing. So seems like mostly in ETH, XMON, Synapse. So those are, I think, kind of projects that I like very much as well. And there are a couple of projects that I don't know much about, like this guy Socks, NCR. So maybe those are something that I should look as well. I think it's a very good source that you can find people who are kind of doing the smart things overall. And smart money is a very good source to discover that. And you can find some other projects that you might not be aware of. So going back, seems like this guy has been increasing the XMON holdings over time. With the recently he bought more. So yeah, this is one of the things that I do quite often. I also use the NFT features quite a lot in these days, going to NFT Paradise and trying to see what are the projects getting popularity and how is the floor price and volume changing. So yeah, Tubby Cats is here as well. The floor is 0.6, so it's kind of decreasing. And if we go into Tubby Cats, yeah, I think price peaked like around here and started decreasing. I use this individual transaction dashboard quite often as well, and especially I'm looking to see if there are smart money buyers, because this is getting minted, so I can see that there are quite a few smart money minting this, but I'm also looking to see if they're buying it on the secondary as well. And yeah, there are a few. So yeah, these are, I think, the main things that I use currently, as well as I use the smart alerts as well. I think it's a very good source of getting notified if you're particularly interested in something. For instance, maybe you're looking for a new project to get deployed. If you know the deployer address, you can just put the notifications on and you will get notified when something interesting happens.
I really like that first workflow you showed, where basically, if I can summarize it, you looked at a token that you are interested in, and you went to notable wallets and you sorted by balance to see what the biggest wallets are doing with it. And then you look at what other tokens they have. It's funny when you see other people use Nansen, because they might use the product in like slightly different ways than yourself. And the fact that you sort on balances is really cool. Actually, it's very smart. Like I normally sort just by the change, either like who are the top buyers or the top sellers. But the balance is cool because it gives you an idea of like the whales currently, right? And like what are they doing?
I think one of the things that I am looking to see if the top holders are still increasing their balances or if they started selling. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's a question here. Given a new NFT project, when is the price estimator and rarity profiler available in Nansen? Tubby Cats is not there yet, right? Maybe this is a question for Paul.
Yeah, it's super early access. It's great that people want it, and so we will deliver it. What we want is people to click on that survey at the top of the price estimator and say exactly what you want to see and how, the improvements you want and the projects you want on it next, and we can work on it. We're also going to be improving how fast and how often we get rarity data so we can plug it in. So you might have noticed we often don't have all the rarity data for every project. So week or two time, hopefully Alex will be showing you a massive amount of rarity data, and then we can plug the model on into that even more and home in on it. So I'm just, as you might be able to tell, we're excited to see where this product goes, and any feedback on that's great as we expand it out. But yeah, obviously the natural thing now is just to ramp it up in terms of coverage.
Is there like a process for, let's say, Tubby Cats? Is it something we can do internally to sort of click the button to get the traits for that and get started, or is that a very complicated process, right?
I shouldn't say because I'm not a dev, so to me it's clicking a button. Yeah, sure. I'll be like, hey, can you click that button twice extra fast, and then we'll get it. But it is the system owner built and the rarity system. All our tools have been built brilliantly by the devs, so it is almost as simple as that. Like we saw when we had an internal meeting where we launched Price Estimator, and owner just showed us like click the button, and it all kind of unfolds in front of you. So maybe even that'll be something the user can do: click the button straight from the dashboard.
Yeah, I think we're also reviewing a bit the profile for how we, the process for how we get traits into the database, right? I think so. In an ideal world, I think the way it would work is kind of we detect that a new smart contract is an NFT, and we figure out the endpoint, which you can often do from like the token URI field and so on, and then you just like start scraping or polling it until it gives you traits. Like that's kind of the dream solution. But I think for now we have to do some manual work to pull the traits. So we isn't like a very specific time period, right, from when an NFT collection launches to the traits being available. So the best thing people can do, what is it? Go to feedback.nansen.ai and just scream to get the traits. Do you think that's one path? Or
Yeah, do that. Get into the feedback and just say exactly what you want. Upvote all the things you want. We really love it, and we look at it. Yeah. It might take longer. Like sometimes you might request something, we don't do it straight away, but it's always on our mind, and we're always like looking at them every week, saying how can we do these and deliver it. So yeah, that is my top suggestion too.
Awesome. All right, I think we're up on the hour, so we might want to wrap up here. Do you have any final notes, guys, before we close?
I've got no final ones. I'm waiting for Coinbase to drop. That's my big, like, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's my big, like, if you got into like the macro debate, that's just what I want to see happen. And it seems like it's been ages. So can you put that in our feedback and we'll try and make it happen as well?
Yeah. Cool. Journey is saying she's bullish in the chat, so that's good. That's a good sign for the macro sentiment.
Oh yeah, when is Journey coming on office hours? That's my second. Last question.
Yeah, we need. That's the second one, right? We need to get Journey on office hours. So maybe we should have like a feedback request section for office hours too. But okay, I think we can wrap it up here. So thank you, Onur and Paul, for joining office hours. Hope to see you back here soon. And for everyone who was watching this, hope you enjoyed the discussion. If you did, then please give our video a thumbs up and share it with all your friends. Remember to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss any alpha leaks, new features, etc. Thank you very much, and we will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.